Hi, PerspectiveWeather.com meteorologist Paul Dorian here on Thursday, August 20th. A very active tropical scene in the Atlantic Basin. We actually have a parade of systems from the Caribbean Sea all the way back to Africa, and it will be an active time period as we close out the last 10 days of the month of August. We will focus in on the front-running two systems, both of which are now tropical depression status. As of 11 a.m., the front running system has reached that status, tropical depression. Both of these two systems right here should become tropical storms over the next couple of days, and yet we have a third system right here now off the west coast of Africa. Again, we'll kind of focus in on these two front runners. First of all, the first system, again, it is a tropical depression now. It continues to move west-northwest. It looks more and more symmetrical, indicating intensification is certainly ongoing. This is the Yucatan Peninsula region of Mexico. It looks like it'll take a track, as we've been saying for the last few days here, right towards or right over the Yucatan Peninsula, and likely after that spill out over the southwestern part of the Gulf of Mexico, perhaps on a track that will bring it towards the Texas Gulf Coast in several days. But again, this is now a tropical depression, and whether or not this becomes the first named tropical storm is hard to say at this time. But again, both of these systems are tropical depressions. The first one that reaches tropical storm status will become Laura, and the second one will become Marco. Again, I expect both of these to reach tropical storm status. This is the second one. It is taking a slightly more northern path compared to this first one, and we talked about strong high pressure ridging building in the western part of the Atlantic Ocean. That will tend to suppress these storms to the south, make them take more southern routes. This one has a chance to cut right into this area across the southern Bahamas, maybe the Florida Straits into the eastern or central part of the Gulf of Mexico by the middle of next week. Again, these are the two main systems of concern and the main area of concern for ultimate impact, the Gulf of Mexico region from Florida to Texas, and Bahamas certainly will get involved in this second system. Let's now take a look at some of the factors involved with these ultimate storm tracks. Well, we'll show a European computer forecast model run from last night, 0Z. But first I just want to show this particular map from the National Hurricane Center. Again, a key factor here is there will be a strong high pressure ridge just intensifying right in this region right here. Now, winds blow clockwise around high pressure areas, and in much of this fashion that you see right here, these storms will tend to move west-northwest over the next 2, 3, or 4, or even 5 days, as this system will remain quite stationary over the western part of the Atlantic. It is very unlikely with this kind of weather pattern that either one of these systems does what Isaias did, cut across the Carolinas and then ride up along the eastern seaboard here in the middle Atlantic, northeast U.S. That is very likely not going to happen with either one of these two systems. By the way, this is not labeled here as Tropical Depression 14, but it is going to be that way in a moment or two. The National Hurricane Center, I believe, at 11 a.m. officially will call that a tropical depression. Again, the track likely for this front runner across the Yucatan Peninsula, maybe eventually right towards the Gulf Coast of Texas. This one taking more of a northern track, probably something like this, and maybe ultimately into the Florida Straits, maybe then into the eastern part of the Gulf of Mexico. Yesterday we mentioned the possibility, certainly on the table, that at some point in time there could be two separate systems in the Gulf of Mexico, depending on the timing of these. But again, this is the key feature in the upper part of the atmosphere that will tend to suppress the storms to the south, take more of a southern route as compared to riding up along the eastern seaboard. Now, that doesn't mean there won't be some impact way down the road from these systems in the northeast U.S. Certainly they could go into the Gulf of Mexico and then turn up north and east. But for now, it looks like these are the kind of tracks we're talking about. And then, of course, we have another wave over the west coast of Africa. We'll deal with that later on. Let's go through last night's 0Z European model run. I just want to show a few frames here for the key player here. What we're looking at is a 500 millibar height forecast map for Saturday evening. Strange color scheme here perhaps, but what we're seeing here is high pressure ridging right here over the western part of the Atlantic, so I'll put that high in green. Another one out over the western U.S. Meanwhile, we have this trough right here in the south central states. This, by the way, is the reason why we're experiencing very pleasant temperatures for this time of the year in much of the eastern half of the nation. For example, in the mid-Atlantic region, many suburban areas in the I-95 corridor region bottomed out in the upper 50s for the overnight lows. Meanwhile, very, very hot weather out over the desert southwest, the western U.S. with this high pressure ridging throughout the lower and middle levels of the atmosphere. And this is the key player here as far as the movement of these particular tropical systems in the Atlantic Basin are concerned. With this thing sitting here for several days, the general flow, again, clockwise around highs, will push these systems basically from the east to the west, maybe a little bit of a west-northwest track. And again, the first system looks like it may cut across the Yucatan Peninsula and then spill out over into the southwestern Gulf of Mexico, perhaps having a collision with Texas in several days, the Texas coastal region. This second system may very well cut right through the Florida Straits. Now, it could certainly move a little bit north of there and impact, have more of a direct impact on the southeastern part of Florida. It's several days away, but it's this general region here for the likely track of that second system. Again, which one becomes Laura versus Marco, just too early to say. They're both kind of increasing in intensity right now. Both, again, now tropical depression status. So again, this is the key player here in the upper part of the atmosphere. And let's just move forward a little bit in time and watch. This is now late Saturday night, Sunday morning, Sunday evening, Sunday night, all the way into Monday morning. And notice, very, very stationary look to that high pressure ridge over the western part of the Atlantic, and we go all the way into Tuesday, and then Wednesday of next week we still see signs of that high pressure ridging right there, and that again will result in a southern track for these particular tropical depressions. 13 and 14 ultimately will become tropical storms, Laura and Marco. So that's it for now. Very active tropical scene. It looks like it remains active right through the end of the month of August into the beginning part of September. Again, we've talked about not only are sea surface temperatures very, very warm this time of the year, nearing their peak. That's the reason why, climatologically speaking, activity generally ramps up anyway this time of the year, but we also have that Madden-Julian Oscillation Index that tells us a tropical disturbance that propagates eastward around the tropics is going to move into such a position over the next 1 to 2 weeks or so that too will be very favorable for tropical activity in places like the Gulf of Mexico, the southwestern Atlantic, the Caribbean Sea. So buckle up. It's going to be a wild ride over the next 1 to 2 weeks or so in the Atlantic Basin. That's it for now. For PerspectiveWeather.com, I'm meteorologist Paul Dorian.